most studios are well lit, and then the light guys don't really have, don't really care about the people in the that are on the spot.
We deliberately keep it a bit dim.
Cool. That's cool.
I don't know why
So
I
it's
like
cozy.
I like that effect. Well, it's not flashing
Yeah.
and making it too studio feel.
Yeah. Because Instagram and all those social media platforms really love well lit sets. But then when you're on them, you feel you're not comfortable. You need to wear. That's why I brought my glasses. I didn't know what
Really?
it was going to be like. I usually,
No,
bring
I
my
just
glasses.
like the look later. In post, I like the look.
It's cozy. It's
it's like these are at 15%. Like these can go.
Yeah, I know these.
Sun.
We own a couple of these, so yeah, I know exactly how they work.
So, David or David, when we speak in English, how is it
With
actually?
David, yeah. Everybody calls me David. in
It's
English.
David.
In Turkey, they call me Davut, which is another way of saying David, I guess. Yeah,
I've heard somebody call me Tomb.
like Tomb Raider.
Tomb Raider.
Ooh.
I don't know how you come from Tome, Tommy, Tom, Thomas
Thomas.
to Tomb.
Your christened name is Thomas.
Tome.
Right? It's Tome.
It's Tome.
Okay.
Yeah. Old school traditional.
Okay, Tome.
Saint Thomas, Tome.
But everybody calls you Toma, right?
Not everybody. Tommy,
Okay, I thought
Tommy,
that was the go-to.
Tommy, Tome. Yeah. But you're actually David.
I am.
You are David,
In the
and
flesh.
thanks for coming again, man.
It's good. It's good to be here. Thank you for having me.
I love when you come here. In full transparency, we gotta mention it's your second time here. We're recording
It is.
for our second time. We can't mention too much about the first time. That's another type of content that
It
we
wasn't
will.
a debacle or anything. It was a great show.
No. It's just
technically we couldn't air it.
it's a sponsored thing.
Yeah.
It's a bit thematic,
Yeah.
and we can't say much. It's still in post production. It's still in preparation. There will be another episode of David in here. We will release it someday, but this is another one.
Yeah, that was all in Macedonian, so for our Macedonian speakers.
Yeah, which makes
it
this one different, which makes this one more unique. And to be honest, I don't know why I've kind of fallen in love with the English way of leading podcasts.
Thank
So
God.
I love that you also
And me too.
want to do it in English.
Oh, sure. I couldn't get journalists or podcast people to do these episodes in English with me. Cause,
You mean while you're here in Skopje?
Yeah, in Macedonia, they're not really up for it because everybody's used to. So when it's a local thing, right? I think they're getting likes and views more quickly when they do it in Macedonia.
Okay.
But again, I have like a 30-40% following of people who are non-Macedonian speakers. So it's really, I mean, it works wonders for me when I do these things in English because I can also promote them in the US and in Europe across countries that.
Well, it makes sense for them. To me, though, I don't bother with those things. I don't bother with percentages, who likes it or not.
I know. You're just doing this out of sheer love.
All of these just for my own sake, and just for my own sake, I like it when it's in English.
Okay.
I don't know if it sounds genuine. I like it. I've had a few of them, and I think I mentioned this before. The first time you came, I do feel like you're a foreigner. I know you're not, but your whole kind of presence screams not quite your typical Macedonian young man. So it makes it even more natural for me to speak in English. I feel as if though I have a foreign guest.
Okay, well.
And we'll make it clearer why is that the case.
Yeah, sure.
I hope.
I get that a lot. Although the way you phrased that, I gotta say thank you because I take it as a compliment. Although I'm not very over the moon about the fact that kind of sticking out needs to be put into the compliment list.
Yeah. No.
Because I feel like people all across the world, but especially the Balkans, I put it like this. I think many people as soon as they wake up, they ingest a sort of a cocktail of shame and fear. And that's why you get so many people, and not to get overly depressing on, on this.
From the get-go.
but I feel like most of the people, when they're waiting to cross the street, they're not going to be looking up. Most of them are going to be looking down. And you can notice that it's an actual fact. And you can actually notice it when next time you're waiting to cross the street. Just look around, and everybody's looking down. As opposed to looking up and all being, full of wonder and everything like that. So the best compliment you could get among, common folk is
that you stand out.
No, I want to say the best compliment you could get is that you're grounded, you're down to earth, and that's the worst place you can fucking be, right? That you wanna shoot for the stars, right? It's incredibly depressing to be down to earth. It means you're crawling and whatever.
I think I know exactly what you mean. It's this culture thing that for some reason makes people from this part of the world somewhat to what you explained. Like they're downward looking, they're shameful, fearful, scared of, even if they have something in them, like a spark, they want to express it uniquely. Very quickly they get shamed for it or judged, and then on the other hand, you almost I can feel people might criticize you as not being genuine. It's like it feels forced until somebody actually sits down with you, because I can honestly say there's nothing forced about you. It's all genuine, which is why I naturally feel as if you are what you actually are, this unique combination of your background. You have and we'll talk about that, your unique childhood, and your parents are from different cultures and you inherited that in this unique way.
Well, I wouldn't say it's based on just heritage. I would say it's based on actual choices that all of us get to make on how to start your life on a day-to-day basis, right? Because it's not about what has already happened to you or what is about to happen or what's happening to you right now. It's about the filter. It's about how you're receiving your life's interface, if you want to call it that. Because I don't even believe that, like, I find great truths in the fact that it's much more real the way you're perceiving things. You're perceiving your own reality as opposed to what's actually going down. Because if, let's say, you crash your car today, right? And that could be a huge problem for an adult. But let's say a child crashes his toy car, and it's on an emotional level, it's still going to register as the same thing. It's going to be a disaster, right? Both of these people are going to be crying about their loss, let's say. So doesn't matter what really happens in reality. It's what you get out of it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
No. How you parse it. Well, you started with it's the choice making. And even the first time I did get that impression from you. And I don't know where, I'll try to figure out where do you get those kind of wise words, because I don't get to meet a lot of people with that wise way of looking at things, because that's a wise way of looking at things, at least experienced, at least it shows a certain depth of your way of thinking. You don't accept things inertly. Like you pause, you think about them, and then you come up with these conclusions of it. Because, reality is what we make of it. If that's the case, then I can make anything of it. So now it's an effort thing. Now it's a choice thing. Anyway, lovely. A great start. It's like instead of an introduction, I do kind of have a rough list here. We'll try to go over it, but as you know, we can just
always get
tangent everywhere. But since our last time, one of the few new things I noticed while following you was this very unique project called Ingrid and I, which is a full featured movie, or is a just tell me more about that.
So I'm not sure about the format. It's kind of an in-between thing. I believe the runtime is going to be somewhere around 30 to 40 minutes or 25,
okay.
30.
So it's like
it's not even a short. It doesn't fall under that category. I don't know what it is.
It's not a show. It's a one start to end
feature film. It's I can't call it a feature film. It's a 30-minute runtime film, and you can't call it a short film because there's rules about that I don't really understand. But anyway, it's a story. It's a story about a torn down ex-Viking, I guess, who used to raid, and now he's all washed up, and he's a fisherman, and he has a little daughter. And
so it is set in those
definitely
times.
It's a period piece. Yeah, it should be about
9th century, 10th century. What is that?
Century or 10th.
Okay,
yeah, that's where it's at.
And production wise, is it what's the?
So it was
how did it come about?
Oh, as many of these projects come about, it's there's two factors. Two things to factor in, and one of them is you got to have the initial original idea has to happen somewhere for there to be a real story, that like a driving force of the film.
And this one is?
And this one is just following the well, it is an abandoned village where this guy lives with his daughter, so it's just a matter of their everyday life. And what happens when somebody used to be he was essentially a warrior, right? And now he's not that anymore. And now he's just being a parent. But there's some very strange twists here and there. And I can't tell you
whose is it? Like, who's the writer? Who's the how do these things go in production?
Yeah, so
like you have a writer.
Right. So two factors. One would be we made up the story on a table very much like this one. But
who's we?
We would be my director Billy, myself, and a couple of other people from our production called Artistic Film Production.
Oh, okay, and that's it.
That's how
you
the
guys
story
sat
is
down.
Yeah, well,
and you made up a story.
We didn't even sit down. We were doing something else, and somebody went, "Oh, why not? Let's do a strange film that's got like a lady who's like insane or whatever." And that was just the first.
Okay.
You know how these brainstorming things go. It starts from one place and it ends up being
iteration, then
completely different.
Iteration number 1,000
exactly
ends up being Ingrid and I.
But I know that the lady was supposed to be a Norse lady who believed in the goddess Freya, goddess of fertility and what have you. So that was the first draft, if you can call it that. It wasn't even written down. It was just a pitched idea on the table. And from there on out, we kind of examined it. We worked on it. Of course, we got it down to what really works nicely for the story. And then we had an ulterior motive, and that was our previous short film called The Elephant.
Which I've seen, actually.
Oh,
I have.
Oh, okay, great.
Right after our first talk, I went and found it.
We couldn't post that.
Very unique.
Yeah,
thing.
it's strange.
It's not your normal feature.
Well, yeah.
It's not feature. It's a short.
It's a short. Yeah.
It's a short film.
But it was a strange.
Yeah, it's not easy to follow. Like.
Yeah, and it's basically about a guy who has already died and has like a dialogue with himself, a post-mortem.
You're talking about the
elephant.
The elephant, yeah.
And that film got an award on a festival called something Network Festival that was based in the UK, and there was a screening there, and it actually won some sort of, I don't know which place, I think fourth or third place, and from there on out, and they also screened it in LA, in Los Angeles, and that's how. And now we kind of worked with that festival in order to produce Ingrid and I. So it was a sort of a international collaboration, but it started from the elephant actually. So that was so we knew there was an ulterior motive there because we wanted to work with these guys. We've been wanting to work with them for some time, but we just needed the right project, right? Because it's never good if it never works if you just want to do another film due to reasons that are industry based. So it wasn't enough just to want to do another film with these guys. We actually needed an original, firm story that's gonna be the driving force of this project. So until it came, we never actually pursued that collaboration. So once we had the idea, we got it down real nice. We made it pretty, made it look pretty, and the pitching and everything like that. And we joined forces to do this film.
How deliberate was the preparation in terms of historical accuracy? Because when you do time pieces like that, somebody's bound to either criticize or compliment. Like they're gonna say, it wasn't like that in 9th century Viking, blah blah.
True.
So while preparing stories like that, historical pieces, is there a part of time spent on, like, I don't know, like double checking things, like just making it accurate, both visually, but also in the way communication is done, or what are they actually doing in a Nordic village type of setting?
Yeah, well, from what I can tell you is, there's set designers for that, and costume designers and all of that, and makeup and all that stuff.
They do that, like they make
research
sure
first. They well, in our story, in this one in particular, it's still a fictional story. It is based somewhat loosely on a Norse, in a Norse setting.
Okay,
but it is a fictional story, meaning that let's say, I don't know, like the craftsmanship of the knife doesn't have to actually be a period piece. I'm just
right. Well, some artistic freedom is allowed.
That's what I want to say. Whereas in other areas of the film, because I actually did the translation, and I believe I've never shared this up until now, so this would be an exclusive. But the whole film is actually spoken in Old Norse.
No,
meaning, it's all original. I speak Old Norse throughout the whole film. It's not even in English. So
it's not even in English. I didn't know that.
It's a dead language, and I had so much trouble getting it down to the real original version of how it was spoken and how it sounded and all that stuff. Because when we were filming, I was here in Skopje, Macedonia, and first thing I thought when I thought Old Nordic, Old Norse, I called up the museum, the National Museum. They had of Macedonia.
Oh, okay.
And they had no experts on Old Norse.
What did you expect to get from the National Museum?
I guess I hoped somebody would go, I can.
Oh, I'm an expert in Old Nordic language.
At least some sort of, at least I thought there was going to be like two guys that have, I don't know, learned.
Like at least give you a reference, like just go read that book.
I don't know what I was thinking. I was desperate at that point. I started calling anybody.
What did end up happening?
So then they didn't have anyone. Then I called the university I used to go to, which is Cyril and Methodius here in Skopje, and I called my I believe I called some of the professors that I had, because I studied English literature, and I called some of the professors up just to see if there's somebody, like in a,
maybe they know somebody knows somebody,
right? Yeah, who's a dead language expert, like Latin. I was thinking maybe Latin people who speak Latin could maybe also be kind of curious about Old Norse, but anyway, nobody. I got no one. So what I did was...
And you personally don't have any knowledge of that?
No, it's a dead language. No, I wouldn't be... No. It sounds very different to
Bring
all
me
the Scandinavian...
a bit into nowadays. What would that be? Like an old Norwegian, Swedish? What are the languages?
It's an amalgamation of all of those. Let's say it's between Norwegian, Swedish. It resembles Icelandic most because the Vikings used to raid Iceland, right?
Yes,
and
I know that.
And it's an island. So because of the fact that it's an island, it didn't get culturally it kind of stayed the same. Yeah, mostly. Like I would say like it's 80%. It sounds like Icelandic, and this is I hope I'm not butchering the Icelandic.
Well, let me ask you this: nowadays, who of these nations would understand it? The Old Norse,
mostly Icelandic people.
They would understand it.
They would get like maybe 50% of it, like half.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's prominent there. It's the closest we've got.
Okay, but
Old
that's
Norse.
being raided. So it would originate from Norway?
Well, Scandinavia in general, because they didn't have these countries. Like they did, but the cultures would mix so much that it was pretty much
right.
Everything was in Old Norse.
So as we
Danish
do usually say today, just Scandinavian.
That's pretty much. That's the way, at least, that people have told me. So that's how I understand it. But so I did my own research.
Yeah, what did it?
It was 2 weeks of intense work on listening to Old Norse, and I could only find one expert.
You found something?
Oh, yeah, I found an expert from, I think, Colorado, and he posts these videos on YouTube. So I contacted him, and we talked a little bit about, I'm doing this kind of film, and I got to do my own research since there's nobody here to help me. Can you help me out a little bit? And he kind of reached out. And so the thing is, if you want to write it down, it's crazy because it's all runes, right? It's like it's runes, basically. I got them tattooed now on my fingers. But and they're all like one sound is like so it's like one rune per word. That's how
symbol,
it kind of
you
works.
mean?
Symbol, yeah. They're called runes, yeah.
But symbol is a word, okay.
A symbol is a word. And it's very difficult you can't understand it because it takes years and years to, actually have some sort of understanding. And I was doing that research with this guy from Colorado, and afterwards, they it sounds like Icelandic, but it's not pronounced like Icelandic. So at the end, I ended up sending him all the dialogues, and he ended up, sending me
like a
the
review.
whole thing. Yeah. But I had to do the rough translation first. So I translated it in Icelandic. Then I sent it to this guy. He did all the finishing touches and send it all back to me. And I had this back and forth thing where he would coach me in a way. And it was very hard. It was hard for me to, I'm good with languages in general. I have the ear for it.
Mm-hmm.
I can do them. I don't know if being a musician helps or whatever it is, but I can get into a language pretty fast. But this was something that goes beyond language because when you think about concepts like thought processes, it's a lot different to what we have now. So, for example, these guys, and we tend to forget how much Christianity has an effect on all of our thought processes. So there's no angels, there's no demons, there's no good or bad in that sense. So they only have like these things called drengur, which is like somewhat of a demonic form, and that will be their epitome of evil. So it's not even, when you call it evil, they don't have the concept of evil.
It's not evil per se.
Right. So you gotta personify it as this drengur. And whenever you say that word, it's all that means that is evil for us today. You gotta call it that, and you gotta give it a face and a undead body that they used to believe in. So the whole conversation changes when you have these things in.
Wow. And you're so right. Like, words and language, we are not even aware how much they form the way we are thinking.
Yeah.
Like, just speaking another language is not a pure translation thing. Like, your
conceptualizing
of words and ideas and thoughts is different. And now going back 1,000 years in a whole other universe, you have to try to kind of embrace and show that, because now it's one thing to learn it and then you understand, but then you have to personify it in this character, because now you're an actor. So now this is so out of my world of familiarity.
It's out of mine too.
You're an actor, man. So, I mean, I don't have another one to ask, so I have to ask you, how is it on these sets? Like, you go there, you have a timeline, we got to do this and that. We are, I don't know, like this is like the closest thing to Hollywood that I can ever understand.
So let me put it like this. The second that you start thinking that it's somewhat normal to do these things, it's, you've lost your shit. So every time I approach a role or a song or whatever it is that I'm doing creatively, each one of those times I start off as an amateur, right? Meaning, in the true sense of the word amateur, it comes from amor, right? From love.
Okay.
When you etymologically, when you translate it, it's amateur comes from love. So the root of the word is love. So there's no knowledge, there's no technique that can really get you there fast. There's things that help, of course, but
get you where?
Get you to actually do nothing and be present within somebody else's skin.
To act the role.
Which is called acting, but I really don't think there is such a thing. There's very few people can act. All the rest of us who are somewhat decent actually go through the stuff, the narrative that the film kind of brings. So I'm really there. I'm really
you're
going
letting
through it.
It transform you so that you become that.
Yeah, because the worst thing you can do is practice acting in front of the mirror, let's say. Because it's not about the faces you're making or the the moves that you're making. They don't translate. How does it look to be angry? If you try and look angry, you're not going to translate that.
It's going to be
people
fake,
are going to know it's fake.
Yeah.
But if you actually feel angry, that's acting. So there's no acting.
And then I get what you're saying. And then it's not acting because I'm really angry.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's the ability to fool yourself into feeling the real feelings behind your role. Very few people can fake that, but I don't personally know anyone who can.
We started talking about how life is a matter of choices. Would that thing that you just explained, how you walk into a new project, walk into a new role, being an amateur of love, is that a choice? Or is that one of those things where you've kind of, I don't know, either from experience or you've learned it somehow, but to make that choice. I'm not gonna fool anybody here. I'm a complete beginner. I'm gonna be completely vulnerable, let myself to the process, and it will transform me. Is that a choice?
Not knowing something is the only true start you can give yourself. Let me explain. If I say I know something that I really don't know much about, then people in those instances choose to believe. Whatever we don't know, we believe, right? Okay. So we don't know if there's a God, right? We don't know if there's a one world government conspiracy. All of these things. We don't know where Corona started from, where the virus started from. And if you ask everybody on the street, most of them are going to tell you they believe that it's this and that. So everybody's got their own, start off in China with those people with the bats and all of that stuff. And, but let me tell you what the real thing is. The US started, it's all make believe, right? Because we don't actually have access to the facts. So if you put that aside for a second, I believe I really think that the real approach to anything you don't know is admitting that you don't know shit about it. Because that's the only way, that's the beginning of searching, of finding out. So in every character, I don't know squat about them. I don't know what they're about. I don't know how they're going to, I go out there and I find out. But you got to stay truthful. You got to, there's no BS in that. You got to let the character speak. I just listen.
Very well put. I understand you completely.
Yeah.
Either you don't know anything, which is actually all of us in reality. We don't know shit.
Yeah, right?
Or you just believe.
Yeah.
And then it's out of, then you can't even talk about it.
And that isn't
then it's out of discussion.
True.
Then it's end of discussion. You believe it. Done.
And that's not to say we shouldn't have dreams or
belief.
aspirations, right? Or
belief.
Goals or all of that. It's just a matter of not fooling ourselves that we actually comprehend the whole thing at once. None of us really do. And as long as you're honest with that about yourself, you're...
Well, have you read like the latest version of the definition of what wisdom is? I mean, the latest. I know I've heard a few these teachings of these university professors, John Vervaeke. They're like cognitive psychologists or something.
Okay.
Wisdom is the ability to avoid bullshitting yourself.
Ooh.
So that's wisdom.
That's nice. Yeah.
Because we're all prone to bullshit. Either we are bullshitting ourselves, or we're letting other people bullshit us. And so wisdom is just knowing when you are under the influence of bullshit and be aware of it and just know that you don't know anything.
Well, look at it this way.
Lovely.
The second you're born, everybody tries teaching you shit, right? Everybody wants to teach you something.
Everybody, everything, every.
Yeah. So, and the people who are doing the teaching are usually people that have failed in their own stuff. So they want to teach you stuff so that to have you not fail in their goals. Right. So,
but even that's wrong. Like you should, the failing is the process.
Oh yeah. So it's just a matter of being real that, and I'm 30 now, right? So the older I get, the clearer it is for me to see that all the grown-ups around the world, or the basically babies that have just grown up, they're not like wiser. They're not more. Maybe they're more experienced.
They are playing grown-ups.
Yeah, but I can see do you really know anyone that has absolutely changed since they were a kid? So I don't know these people. I only know people that are very similar to what they were when they were young or very young.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
So it's just a matter of piling up new experiences, but you can't really change your nature. And that means that we're all grown up babies, just babies that have grown up. And when you look at it like that, nobody can really teach you something. It's a matter of what you choose to get out of people and put in yourself and make a sort of an amalgamation of thoughts and feelings. And
I've said it a few times already, and I'll say it again. And you just mentioned it. You're 30 years old. I'm telling you, I talk with a lot of people.
Yeah.
Some of them 30, some of them 60. I don't know if I can say that I know another 30-year-old with these kind of ways of looking at things like you. So this is just an honest observation. Take it as it is. I just feel as if though you are much wiser than your years on average. Take it as it is. It makes me wonder. It makes me want to ask you about what made you so. And we talked a bit our first time about your childhood, enough for me to know that you kind of had a unique, everybody is unique, of course, but
sure,
tell me more about your childhood. Like what made you the way you are today?
First few lessons that I learned were, first one was maybe listening to orders, because I feel like that's important. Not questioning authority. Sometimes, should always ponder stuff and think about stuff. But there's a time and a place for doing that. If, let's say, you and I are in the army and you're far more experienced than I am, if you call me to, if you tell me to, drop and roll, I better drop and roll right at that very instant, because I don't have time to ask you questions right then and there, like why or how do you want me to roll? I should just drop and roll.
Especially in life and death situations.
Yeah. And I'm saying that's maybe the first thing I remember learning in life, because my dad would take me out.
Listening to orders?
Yeah, my dad. We actually had these sort of exercises, if you will. My dad would take me out into the forest, and he would go hide behind a tree or whatever. And as soon as I went, well, why? Which tree or whatever, he would tell me, sometimes there's no time for you to ask me all this stuff. So you just listen to what I say, and then we could talk about it. And that's one of the first things. Yeah. Second thing I learned was...
Sorry.
Okay.
I'm going to interrupt you a whole
ahead.
lot of times here.
Go right ahead.
So this was, again, for those who don't know, let's go back even one more step.
I know what you're going to say.
So you have a father...
I had one.
Oh, yeah.
Both of my parents are not with us anymore.
Yeah, unfortunately, your parents are not alive
But
anymore.
I grew up around the world, listening to having been fed books for bedtime, and my parents would actually read to me a lot. And so I was being told stories since forever. And the first thing I learned was trusting somebody completely and not questioning authority. So I feel
that's your father?
Yeah, mostly.
And he's from Finland.
I grew up everywhere, actually. I grew up
But your father's nationality is?
Finnish.
Finnish,
right? Anyway, I grew up in parts of Scandinavia. I grew up around the world with my mom. She was an architect. She was always working abroad. And as soon as I came to Skopje, I started traveling a lot with her. I lived in Abu Dhabi and Marseille and a little bit in Madrid, and wherever she had work, we went. So it was a custody thing. It's a long story. My parents were separated.
Just to have a picture with the story that you started explaining with your father sending you to the woods.
So this is a lot of snow, right? So this is a lot of.
What am I?
Minus 20 or
what am I envisioning here? You are somewhere in Scandinavia.
That's what you're envisioning. Yeah.
Okay.
That's what you should be. And there's turtles around and moose. And
okay.
Elk
love it already.
That. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. We ate a lot.
And you are how old?
I'm like 6.
So
7.
6, 7.
Yeah.
You go out with your father, just listening orders.
I had a knife about yay big, and it was a lesson on how powerful weapons are. And he would find this old battered tree, and he would go like, just smack it as hard as you can. And he would, on purpose, he would find a dead tree so that it would have more of an effect when I would hit it,
yeah.
and it would go like, and he would be like, this is the power of of close combat weapons. And so these types of lessons.
What
and my
was
father
your father?
Well, he was an opera singer. He had nothing to do with the army or anything like that. But I guess this is the way that he was brought up, and so he passed the torch down to.
So I was right saying this was a unique childhood. I mean,
not
a lot of childhoods are like that.
You were definitely right about the fact that every childhood is unique, but mine was one of the first lessons I got was that definitely that home is a feeling. It's not a place, because I was moving around so much.
Right.
And I thought of it. I remember the way I thought of it when I was a kid was, so there's two types of people that can make up a bonfire anywhere they go, and people that cling to their pre-existing bonfires. So the second type is always, the domestic type of people, right? That always kind of comes back to their home.
Uh-huh.
I mean, to their the actual region that you call their home, right? The spot always comes back to the same spot. And there's other types of people that get to carry their own bonfire, so to speak, on their shoulder, on their back, and they can place it anywhere they like. And that type of people, it takes a little bit more effort for you to carry that whole thing, because it's a fire, right? It's gonna burn you. It's gonna be a burden in some way. But then I guess the pros of that is that you can set up home any place you like, right?
Sounds like that's you. Sounds like that's your
definitely
family.
Identify with the second type of person. Yeah, with the one.
Well, with all the traveling, I mean, you're almost left with no choice. You just gotta make your home wherever you are.
I still got all my bags and suitcases and all of that right at my front door.
Almost ready to go.
Yeah.
Wow.
I really like. I enjoy the idea of having a cat. I've never gotten a cat due to constant travel. And I don't want to leave a cat with somebody. It's a burden for both of them, for the cat and for the person. I don't want to, if I get a cat, I'm probably going to, carry it with me at all times. So that's why I haven't gotten a cat yet.
So moving, fast forward through all of that interesting childhood of yours, because the question is, what made you the way you are? And then even deeper, the core of that question would obviously be, well, who are you actually? Who is David?
Wow.
And you can start from childhood, you can start anywhere. I know it's deep philosophical questions because that's the way I like them.
Cool. That's why I love your podcast, because we get right down to the gist.
Because you know what the next question is going to be. So right now, let's focus on who is David.
Okay. Out of all the identities that I was kind of browsing through when I was a kid, I guess I immediately knew I was going to be the archetypical, the archetype of a storyteller.
Storyteller.
Yeah. So I'm the guy sitting around the bonfire telling you stories. That's who I am. That's
you're the one making the home.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. And you're going to leave with a story. That's like a bonus. So I'm going to make your home and I'm going to tell you a story and then you're set.
You actually are.
Well, I guess.
Isn't that an artist?
I think that's how I define being an artist.
Of an artist, because artist can be anything. And it will always be a story. That's how you will connect.
Yeah, I've been a musician on stage. I've been, a Viking. I've been a drifter. I've been a soldier. I've been a gangster. I've been all of these things, and it's all essentially storytelling. It's even when I'm doing songs, I figured out that's how I got into the film business. Actually, I was refusing. I didn't want to identify as an actor because I've been looking at myself. I thought of myself as just a musician only, and that was my career up until 4 or 5 years ago. And then kind of the film industry knocked on my door. And I didn't want to even discuss roles or anything. I kept rejecting certain roles and all of that. And then it really started knocking with these incredibly written characters and stories. And then I figured out, this is already something that is out to get me, right? Why don't just, open the door and let it in? And at that point, I figured that through most of my songs, I was portraying characters anyway. Right? Because it's not me that has been heartbroken. It's a fictional guy that has had to go through a heartbreak for me to sing from his point of view. And it's storytelling. I guess that's who I am. I'm somewhat decently okay with telling a story or two.
Love it. Now I don't know if the next question makes too much sense because
just go for it.
it literally says, who are you becoming?
Mm.
You know, okay, if you're a storyteller, on what kind of a life path are you?
No, I can take you up on that.
And then
I know how to
who
answer
are you
that.
becoming?
I actually have an honest answer about that. I am trying to become, I believe I want to become the artist that is as close to truth as possible. Meaning, if you're going to be acting or telling any type of story, you got to base it on reality. Anything that's not based on reality, you can just, it's going to be fake. You can discard it right away. So the gap between fiction and reality, even if it's the most fictional premise, right? There's a dragon, you got to kill that dragon in order to save the fair maiden, right? You got to feel the exact same thing that you're feeling in a real setup. If, I don't know, you want to translate that to a girl that has psychological issues or whatever, or you want to base it on something that you've had, you know, in your real life or whatever, and maybe the dragon would be one of her parents or some relative or whatever. You gotta base it on reality. And I want to breach that gap as much as possible. I want to make it non-existent, actually. So I want to stay true to that.
How much are you aware that that's a lifelong journey? Because I don't know if we ever get to the truth. I don't know if anybody ever gets there.
Again, that's not the point, is it? Yeah.
Well, that's the question. So you are there for the journey.
I don't think I'm ever going to get there. I'm happy to spend my life getting there.
So you're the journeyman who just walks on these storytelling paths towards truth.
I can live with that.
I want to live with that. That's great. It's a difficult thing. We mentioned your parents are not alive anymore.
Yeah.
I cannot put into words how hard that must be. And I mean, I want to ask again something about the journey, because you are full with life. I mean, at least that's the energy I'm getting. Anytime I'm with you, you're positive, you're optimistic, your way of looking to the world is very positive. Your energy that you put out to the world is to the positive. It has a definite net positive effect. But you would be completely also right to not be like that, having lived through the death of your parents. I know it must be extremely difficult, but maybe if you want to give it an honest try of, again, how does one go over such a loss and still keep this kind of outlook towards life?
Okay. All right. I can answer that in a couple of ways, but let me try. So you mentioned it would be justifiable if I wasn't full of life and positivity.
That was my word. Yeah.
Yeah. But then again, so could anyone, right? So there's a quote by someone. The name escapes me. It's some sort of a writer from the States, I guess, prominent in the 80s or so. But the quote goes, "Anything could be everything else, and it would still matter just as much." I don't look at it like it's about what happens. I only look at it like it's about how you deal with the stuff that happens. Right?
Back to square root.
Yeah.
The way we started.
So of course, I mean, it sucks to lose your parents and all of that, but it's the way that, let's say, the universe wanted, it's what was in store for me all this time. And I don't think that there could be another version of this particular life. So I do with it, I make of it the most I can, right? And I'm pretty happy with the way that I've cultivated and used those experiences to my, whatever you want to call it, positivity or creativity or craft or whatever. And for some reason, it strikes me that my particular life has been rather extreme, in the sense that it's gone from extreme highs to incredible lows. But I'm happy to have that capacity in, swinging, for that, swinging both sides, if you will, because it's something that one can draw from. And then when it comes to emotional or intellectual or even spiritual capacity, then you have a lot to work with, right? Tell you the truth, I just recently lost my mom. It was about last year. It was about, I think, October, and it was the day on her birthday. And yeah, I took it. I was working the whole day, if you can believe that, because you never know how these things are going to go. So I was just learning who I am at the same time that this was happening to me. I was just watching myself react to that type of loss. And it was the second parent I lost. So first one was kind of like in a hurry. It was very immediate. But the second thing, my mom was struggling with, terminal illnesses and that for months. And we could, me and my family, we knew that it was coming, but it's still a surprise when it happens. But on the day that I got the news, I got the news, and the first thing I do is I had a lot of work, and I continued working. And that might sound a little bit freaky to people, and a little bit, some people even call it heartless or, out of touch with stuff. But I like to think of it as just, of course, when I got the news, immediately, tears went down and all that. But I was feeling very happy and very grateful for the fact that I get the gift of experiencing these types of very intense emotions. So it's kind of like if I'm in a train, and if the train is about to crash, I would prefer sitting in the front row, because then I get the best view, right?
You're that sort of guy.
Yeah.
You if it goes on, give me 100%. Of it.
In any way,
do you almost feel privileged to be put in positions that you are the one receiving the full effect of things?
Beats the hell out of not existing, right?
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much for this answer. It definitely brings closer my understanding of your character, and it kind of answers some deeper questions that you can't really even put into words. You just only feel things. And it reminded me of another question I had, which was about empathy. You certainly know a huge part of acting must be the empathy, being able to recognize, to control, to process, to parse information through an empathic lens, let's say. And from what I know of psychology, of empathy, exactly the things that you described now, being at the front seat of emotional train wrecks or anything that has to do with the full 100% intensity of emotions, of feelings, of events, of actions, when you are kind of subjected to the full intensity of life, those are the types of characters that usually do cultivate another level of empathy. They are the ones that are now being able to recognize in other people, or know to almost kind of premonition what would something feel like for you, for me, with you. Do you think about this? Do you feel that but also give me the actor's answer. Because one answer is you personally, but that's also a skill, like in your toolkit, that you must find it useful in acting.
Let me try merge those two answers in one, right?
Please.
So all of us are acting every day. In the sense that, let's say you work in a company, right? And your boss gives you this horrible idea that he thinks is good. And what do? You look at them and you go, Reynold? And you even lean forward on the table and you go, I think that's a wonderful idea. And, right? All of us are acting all the time.
Your given role.
Yeah. So I'm just getting better and better at being aware of that happening. And that's all pretty much acting is for me.
Would that be the cultivation of empathy? Is there, because you're aware of it, that means you think of those things. You don't.
Yeah. I just thought of
I'm reminded of something. What?
Yeah. I got reminded of there was a time. So I had this crazy gym owner at a gym that I used to go to, right? And he had the most particular sense of humor, and that I feel like maybe only I ever got, because nobody else was laughing at the things he did. But also not even him, because it wasn't, the things he was doing were not really funny to him. It was just the way he was, right? But I found that incredibly hilarious. So one girl walks up to him and he's doing a shift, mind you. He's the owner, but he's also doing a shift at the gym. So he's holding a shift, just being bored out of his mind, just scrolling through Facebook, doing nothing, not even reading the Facebook posts, just kind of swiping, and that's all about pretty much what he did for 8 hours a day. and this girl walks up to him from the stretching part of the gym, and she walks up to him and she goes, "Excuse me, sir, like I can't even breathe anymore. It's so hot in there. Can you please put on the AC? And I can't even take it anymore. I'm so sweaty." And he starts listening to her, and without him even noticing, he goes, "Yeah, really?" And he starts doing the same thing. He starts with his hands and all the things that she was doing. And at one point, he even starts blowing in her face because he was being so empathetic that he was feeling so hot because she was explaining the atmosphere that she was feeling. And he goes like, and she's listening to all this stuff, and she goes, he starts to fucking cool her off. He's just got into character of this girl so much that he even started looking girly. And this is a guy who's like, I don't know, like 200 pounds at least, the 240 maybe. And he's an old bodybuilder, he's like massive. He starts going like,
but he wasn't mocking her.
He wasn't. He was just feeling what she was feeling. He was being so empathetic that he was doing the same moves, the same, facial expressions, all of this.
Yeah, mirroring.
He became her, right? So again, it brings me, it's so good to see it. I wish I had it on tape. Anyway, it brings me back to the initial point that we're all acting and we're all mirroring and we're all imitating everything that we see. When you get a little bit smarter is that when you can start sampling emotions and putting them in bottles, like in drawers. And then I have it bottled up to use for whenever
like you draw from it.
Oh yeah. I actually,
on demand.
Music helps me a lot. I listen to certain types of music when I need to get myself into certain types of emotions.
Oh, like cues.
Definitely. Yeah, you put in checkpoints, right?
Yeah.
That you've been listening to.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like you're making these neural associations.
Yeah.
And okay, this triggers that. This triggers
and you
that.
would know about neural associations, right?
Cool.
Due to your background, and of course,
awesome.
I bet it's very similar to, let's say, mind-muscle connection when you try and stimulate certain types of the body, right? And you would know a lot more.
It's just neural pathways, and you're kind of embroiling them deeper and deeper, and that makes like a shortcut, like
programming,
like the quickest shortcut highway to that location.
Oh yeah.
Just working memory.
My coach is here with us in the booth, and he's been boasting about mind muscle connection and all of that for years now. It's all I've been hearing in the gym. It's like I'm focusing, I'm giving it all I have, and I got him screaming, "You're not thinking about your muscles," you know, because he can do it a lot more than I can. He goes to extremes. He can focus on certain, you know, bits of the muscle. He not even like the muscles we know. He can separate them.
Oh,
and
yeah,
do
yeah.
that.
I know
He
that.
does these,
I
you
know
would
that.
know about this for sure.
Yeah, and it was funny listening Arnold Schwarzenegger talking about it, even in the 70s, that he could just think a muscle into growth.
Whoa. He did all that in the 70s?
Yeah,
That's why
he was talking about that. Like he was explaining it on a talk show. It's not about the iron. It's not about the weight. I can think a muscle into growth.
Right.
And the thing is, I'm hearing that and it resonates 100%, because I would half jokingly with friends just tell them, like, I can do one push-up and boom, my chests are there.
It's like hearing
everything.
my coach speak. It's the same thing.
I completely not only believe in that, I have direct experience of it.
Whoa.
Because my, you know, about mindfulness and awareness and being aware of emotions, I think my kind of
strength,
my thing is a physical awareness. Like I literally know the fibers of muscles, the where they stand, at which phase of contraction. So I'm hearing that. Everybody else hears Arnold says that, and it's like he's
but you're actually understanding at a profound level.
That's science fiction.
Says.
No, that's really literally true. I can think a muscle into growth.
Whoa.
Anyway,
so it's that type of focus that is also used for emotions, for empathy, for, you know, I guess it's the same level of focus. And in order for you to get there, I'm assuming you got to cancel out everything else.
Everything.
Right?
You're consumed, obsessed with it.
So this is why I feel sports in general, just physical activity and fitness, is very similar to the arts. Because every day you're kind of exploring a new area of your capacity to excel at something. And this is kind of extroverted a little bit more in fitness, and it's a little bit more introverted of an experience when it comes to, let's say, acting. But you're exploring new areas that you don't, I mean, necessarily you wouldn't even be, you don't have to be aware that you even had up until today, or you know.
Well, since you went there, because I did have a whole section about the physicality of your life, because I know you train, and you try to be consistent about it. Well, let's start with why. Just why are you being so consistent with training, let's say, with just being physically active? Because you do look the part.
Thanks.
Let's be honest here. You do look like working out a lot, which I just respect. Whenever I see this is just general compliment to everybody who works out. I have the utmost respect for anyone who is consistent about bringing their physicality in life. Because I know it's not just the physical. Because I know when you train, whether you know it or not, you're training everything about your being, mind, body, and soul together.
Yeah, that's very true.
Back to the question, that type of why are you training?
Well, I never understood when people go, I train for myself. That might sound strange, but let me explain. I do train for myself, but I also train for other people, not in the vain sense that other people could see that I'm kind of buff or whatever. But I train because I'm aware of having a certain responsibility to look the part. If I'm playing, let's say, an action role, or if I let's say I need to look like a soldier, right? Or like a buffed up Viking, or that wasn't the case with this one, with my last role. But anyway, I need to look the part because I feel like European industry, film industry, for sure is kind of lacking that physical aspect of what Hollywood excels at, right?
Mhm.
Look at a Hollywood action character,
They're all
right?
ripped.
And look at Eastern European film characters that are supposed to be the protagonist of an action flick, right? They have bellies. They're kind of like you could see that they've been physically active for months at best, right? They just get in a somewhat of a shape because that's the role and stuff. So I do feel like it's part of my job to look the parts that I'm playing. And that's one thing. Another thing is I quit all my vices in one day when I was 20. Things just piled up to a point where I had to either stop. I was smoking a lot of weed when I was a teenager, and I smoked cigarettes, and I would drink a lot. And at a certain point in time when I was 20, I quit all of that in one day because I knew that it is in my nature to be somewhat of an extremist when it comes to everything. So I knew that I was either going to, leave all of it, quit all of it, or if I started toning it down, which is what most people's approach is, if I start toning it down, it's never going to happen for me. So I knew that I had to cut it all at a certain. I remember having even a sort of an identity crisis after that because apart from the smoking weed and cigarettes and stuff, all I remember was just touring a lot and doing concerts with my bands and stuff. But it's a time-consuming thing to be getting high and to smoke and all of that. It takes time to, get the stuff and then roll it up and then be high for a couple of months. I was going to say a couple of hours and stuff. But that included,
Then getting back sober or not.
Yeah, or not, or just because I was at that point I was smoking like 4 or 5 joints a day, meaning that I was high throughout the whole days. And this went on for years for me.
So then you decide in one day.
Yeah, I'm just gonna.
All of it goes.
Right.
And now identity crisis.
Yeah, because how are you gonna fill up all that free time?
Okay,
your whole routine changes. You wake up and you're not rolling a joint. So what do you do if you're not? Tell you what, the first sober day, and I can remember that day very well. I think I'm gonna remember it for the rest of my life. But I woke up. It was about fall or something like that, and so it was maybe November, I think, and I didn't know what a sober guy does at my age. So I went out and got me some takeaway tea, and I headed straight to the cinema. I took the bus. I was reading a book on the 40-ish minute ride to the cinema, and I hit the movies. And that was my first sort of escape. So it's no coincidence.
I was going to say that.
I found an escape in, first of all, a book, and then
I was going to say that.
Yeah. And so I started, and it's then I started working out. First, I worked out at home for about 2 years, and then I figured out that I can't get any better. I can't improve anymore.
So eventually, would you say the training kind of like you replaced one addiction with the other?
This one is, if you want to, because in a sense, you could go there and you could say everything is an addiction, but in this case, with my fitness, I've learned how to cultivate it by now, and I know how to quit it for a couple of weeks or so, and
so
still be okay
you're not
with
addicted.
that. I wouldn't say I'm addicted any longer, because of course I approached it with because I'm an addict by personality, right? So I can make an addiction out of this podcast, and tomorrow I'm going to be knocking at the door begging for us to do this again. But anyway. But yeah, that's how I work. And then I'm headed towards balancing stuff in my life in general. So now I can go without working out for some time. And last time I did, I think I was in Los Angeles, and I didn't find it gym that was near to me, or I didn't have the time because I was doing so many things. But anyway, I can go without working out now and still feel pretty good. And it's also healthy to not work out for a couple of weeks every year.
Of course, yeah.
And yeah, again, you would know a lot more about this.
Well, I always try to ask a version of this question, which is whenever I kind of talk with a person who is accomplished in one area, but also trains, I always wonder, do the two areas, one being the training and the other being whatever the area of the person is.
Yeah.
In this case, it would be your artistry, your acting, music, storytelling. I always wonder, do they kind of accompany each other? Like, does your training help your acting? Does your acting help your training?
I look at it this way. I look at it from a capacity standpoint. So when I was doing the weed and the cigarettes and all the booze and all of that, I based my artistry on the depths that I knew from my vices and from feeling like the odd one out. I remember a lot of times just looking at, crowds and massive crowds of people, either at some of my concerts or just outside in general, just being anywhere, just staring at people like I'm the odd one out. So I was excluded from everybody and everything. And I was just looking at them from afar, just analyzing people. And I based my artistry on that, on the depths of not being understood, on the depths of being the odd one out, on the depths of being the outlander, if you will. So now I'm doing the same thing, but I get to belong in many places. And now instead of my regular expression being somewhat of a frowny face, now I get to laugh a lot and smile a lot and be loud and be immersed in people and be very present at the moment in any particular moment in time. So I'm kind of like hooked on being tuned in, on getting as much as I can from the now, from this.
And you're saying that somehow the combination of being physically active and also artistic and the connection between the two is what makes this possible?
No, I'm just saying that being hooked on vices gets you to the same level of artistry, but you're not going to last long. And you're going to feel shitty when you're doing
that capacity.
Yeah. So this whole thing, the fitness thing is, you got way better shots at lasting, having a longer career because you're taking care of your health. And
that type of capacity.
Yeah, and you're being you're drawing from a lot. Like I used to think that you got to be in order to become a great artist, you got to suffer to a certain extent.
Yes.
You got to suffer and then transfer that to real artistry so that people would take the artistry seriously because you're drawing from a dark place. Okay. And I figured out along the way that doesn't necessarily need to be the case. I can be very happy. And now what I draw from is kind of bringing in that kind of as close as you can get to being a child that's in a playful mood. So if I got all my problems solved and we're playing, that's the beginning of the most creative stuff that we can conjure up.
Back to the amateur.
Back to the amateur.
Back to the love.
Yeah, back to the not listening to anybody when you're growing up and doing your thing and looking at the world from your pair of eyes or from your perspective as opposed to others.
Awesome. Another very unique thing about you is your involvement with NASA.
Oh, NASA, yeah.
We have to talk about NASA, and what I want to add before we begin is being an actor, being a musician, being something that isn't usually associated with science and NASA and space and exploration would make a first impression or a first judgment from somebody a negative one. Like you know, I don't know if you in reality really have experienced something like that. I hope not, but I'm sure you're aware that the average person, their first impression, their first judgment might be, what does this person have to do with NASA? What are they trying to do here? But then on the other hand, we also, all of us agree that science and space and exploration and NASA are things that should be made more popular.
Right.
Are things that should be made more approachable to more and more kids and people, so that we do have the scientific, technological, and open explorative minds and all of that comes with it. And if you think about it like that, then it absolutely makes sense that an artistic person would be involved in making that closing of the gap. That like if you make a problem out of it, okay, we have a problem. NASA, Houston, we have a problem. NASA isn't popular enough. Science isn't popular enough. Scientists obviously aren't doing a good enough job popularizing it. So if you make a problem out of it, a very logical solution would be, well, let's bring a popular, an artist, somebody who will close the gap.
Yeah,
and here you are actually doing that thing.
Yeah, but you got to be honest and really love exploration, scientific exploration as well, because that all you said.
It has to be genuine.
It has to. People are gonna know if you're, bullshit.
I mean, yeah, if that's a problem, and now we're trying to solve the problem, we're gonna try with somebody.
Yeah,
he's not gonna last if he's completely faking it, completely acting it. Okay, man. Now my judgment is just verified, confirmed. So obviously the consistency, the duration of your involvement with it kind of speaks to that truth, that you are genuine about it and you have some personal...
Oh, sorry,
no, you can answer if you want. No? Okay.
No, thanks.
So that's kind of my take of it. Sorry. My honest opinion that I am completely on board having kind of defined this problem, that there should be a person like you trying to solve that problem, which is bringing it to more and more kids, just making science and exploration and everything that NASA stands for, making it more approachable and especially more popular for kids. I have a kid, and I'm certain that with these kind of projects, when the time comes, it would be much easier for her to approach it instead of when I was a kid, it was the library, the last section of it, 3 books on the subjects, a couple of grumpy professors, and that's it.
Yep.
Nowadays, we have people like you. So that's a long way of giving an introduction that you are somehow involved with NASA. And now I'm going to leave it to you to go long and...
Well, I'm not going to go that long. It's, first of all, I got to say, I'm super happy that it's paid off so well. Because it started off like just being 20 minutes, like a 20-minute per day thing for me. Like I would just do it as a side thing, and I'm still doing it as a side thing, obviously. But
sorry to interrupt, but maybe just try and give a quick intro to somebody who might not know anything about it.
Yeah.
What is your involvement with NASA? Sure. What is it exactly? The project,
Sure. So a few years ago, they've been doing it for about 10 years now, but a few years ago, I was brought into these outreach projects of NASA because they initially figured out that, as you say, that like scientists aren't going to get the layman introduced to scientific and space exploration and those sectors and those industries. So what they basically did was they went like, let's try and find people who are kind of good at presenting things and that are that are at least sharing some of the values that NASA stands for and the whole sector stands for, actually. So I got in touch with the only person in this country who's been doing collaborations with NASA so far. I'm not sure if that's a checked fact, but from what my understanding is, she is the only one that has actually genuinely worked, have had some sort of an interaction with NASA thus far. And she's called Martina Di Mosca, Martha. She's been a friend for years and years now. She's also quite known around social media. She has a vast following of people. So I actually got to know her from the social medias, I guess. And we always were kind of aware of each other because she knew about me, I knew about her, but we never actually got into contact for years and years. And first time I met her, we went to the gun range. Actually, I took her shooting, and she beat my ass. She did a way better score than I did, and I was practicing at the time for a role for some time. And and then she told me that she's also been doing rifle fire. I mean, she's training. She's been using guns for years and automatic guns and all of that. So she actually had more training than I did, and I wasn't aware of that. So anyway, she beat my ass at the gun range, and that's how our friendship started. And after that happened, one thing led to another. She told me she's being involved with some projects that are, initiated by NASA. And again, long story short, I ended up being a host on the world's biggest hackathon that is worldwide. That is NASA's event. It's called SpaceApp. NASA SpaceApp is its name. And it's a worldwide thing where people can get involved into solving some of the problems that space exploration is facing right now, or even introducing new problems to the table. So when you're
not just space exploration.
No, within the sector of space exploration and scientific discovery, but you can also not only answer the questions that are posed already, but you can also introduce new problems and new questions to the table. And that's also
you're given freedom to,
definitely,
if you think of something,
to pose
extra.
new questions, which is what science is really all about, actually, right? So that's where I found the link. First of all, I'm a big Carl Sagan fan and Neil deGrasse Tyson and all these people. Of course, I was very well introduced to the whole, I want to say pop culture around space exploration. Around.
Did they know that?
No, that was just a bonus.
They got an extra.
They figured it out. Yeah. It was just one of those things. It was just one of those.
Oh, by the way, guys, I'm
actually very much a fan of
of you guys,
of all of it that's been going on. Yeah. I hadn't approached it scientifically up until the point where I started working with, the hackathon and all of that. But then I got a little bit into the science
so
as well.
So that's the first one. When was that?
I believe this was about 3 years ago. 3 years ago, I think.
And this is an annual thing?
It's an annual thing.
So since then, every year.
Yeah, it was COVID when I first got into contact with the event, and then we did the first year online. But the good thing was about the online thing was they were not only focusing on local hosts and people that would be hosting their events and mentoring their teams, but because of COVID, they went worldwide for that part of the event as well. So they reached out, and I was like, this is right up my alley. This is something that I have a great interest in. So for the first year, I was not hosting. I was just mentoring the teams, being somewhat of a public speaking coach for teams, meaning that teams across the world would have these ideas, and they only get like about 15 minutes to pitch their ideas in front of the judges. That's the way the event is set up. And I'll work with dozens of teams just getting the pitches in line for them to be impactful and effective within those 15 minutes that they get to
like
present,
you would
right?
train them on how
what's
to
important,
make
what could be left
the
out.
most effective use of those 15 minutes.
Exactly. And I would tell you a funny story about that really gives an insight into the Balkans mentality and Macedonian mentality as well. We had a predominantly Macedonian team, which was made up of, I want to say, about 3 Macedonians and 2 people from around the world. I don't know where they were from, but they had
a single team, 5 members, or
exactly.
Okay,
yeah, one of, let's say, 40 teams that was attending the event, because these events are regional. So this was the event for Cleveland, Ohio. That's what I was working on my first year for this hackathon. So let's just call it the Macedonian team, even though it had 2 members that weren't from Macedonia, but it was predominantly Macedonian. So these people had one of the best, I want to say the top 3 ideas for the event. So I'm not going to go into what is required and what type of, anyway, they had one of the top 3 best solutions out of the whole of the 40 teams that were participating. It's through tedious work that we picked out the guy from Macedonia that had the most potential to present their project. And after like 4 or 5 hours of me coaching the guy in question, they still ended up being among the last teams, because the part that was missing was the presentation of the whole thing. And
you think it was due to that?
I know that it was due to that, because the way that Macedonia, the educational system and all of that, you don't really get a chance to present when you're a part of Macedonian schools and high schools, universities, and that they never teach you public speaking or how to focus on what's important or how to feel genuinely, like you're having an impact on a crowd. Or
any chance you can give me an example, like what exactly was that difficult? Like what was the challenge so that you couldn't train this team?
So I believe that year, I can't remember what their solution was, but that year I know the winning team had a sort of an augmented reality solution for spacesuits, for the suits like that visors? Astronauts wear. Well, not only the visors, but the whole suit. Now, what we're using right now, I'm saying what mankind is using right now is sort of a buttons-based interface when it comes to the interior of the spacesuit, right? So we would push certain things. There's certain commands that you can do within the spacesuit. And these people approached that problem because the problem is that you can improve on that. You don't need the astronaut wasting time on pushing all these buttons and doing all the work inside the suit. So they based it on pinpoints where the astronaut will be looking. And so wherever he would turn his eyes, something different would happen in terms of controls.
Different user interface,
augmented reality. It's what they call it. And that was the winning team's solution. But this was a close, I want to say, second or third. So it was a radical idea. It escapes me now.
The Macedonian team won.
Oh, yeah. They had a wonderful, I can't really remember right now what it was, but it was as original as this thing is. The part they were lacking is the way that, they needed to present their idea. And their best dude was a Macedonian guy, and he had struggles presenting, and he had a great grasp of English. That wasn't the issue. So it wasn't a language barrier thing. It was about self-confidence. It was about standing up in front of NASA and, posing your solution, which is you gotta make those people believe that what you're saying is gonna hold water, right? So if you're very insecure, and if you're mumbling, and if you're not, and that's what happened after 5 hours of work with these people. And I specifically, I could sense that team needed more of
work.
my, yeah. So I focused on that team for some time, and that after all of that, it's not much. It's 5 hours. It's all I could give them, but still, they got the most of my time. And after all that, they still didn't go through with it.
Okay.
It wasn't nice. It wasn't good.
Okay, so over the years, how has this involvement with NASA on your part evolved? How has it changed? What is it today? And bring us to the future. What are some things in store?
That's why I said, like, I love how much it's paid off, because it started off as something that I do on the side, and it still is, but I try and, focus more and more time on that, because it's really paying off. So last year I did their whole hackathon in California, in Silicon Valley. I was actually there on campus. There's this one of the 2 main research centers for NASA. I want to say 3 research centers for NASA. The bigger ones that they got is called Ames. It's in this tiny city called Mountain View. Actually, the whole city is kind of run by Google. So they basically
View, California,
bought the city. Is what Google did.
But that's the Google campus also?
It's right there on the outskirts of the city. But you get Google shuttles across the entirety of the city, and there's free rides, and you can just pick up anything. It's all branded Google. So it's the Google city is what they call it. Anyway.
The city is branded, not the event.
No. The event's got nothing to do with Google, apart from Google being one of the main sponsors, of course, because it's based there.
It is, okay.
But that was just the hackathon for that region. And of course, at some point last year, they called me and they said, like, do you want to do Cleveland, Ohio, or Mountain View, California this year? And I just played California Love from Tupac, and that's how I answered. I was just like, we're going to Cali. That's what I was. Of course, it was a no-brainer, because I also love memes, and there's so many memes about Ohio. I was doing Ohio as well, mind you, because it's a hybrid event where you can also do it online. So I was also hosting that, but I was hosting it online while being physically in California.
Okay.
But it sounded much more appealing to me.
I'm going to surprise you here. I've actually been to Ohio many times.
Way. Wow.
I actually know Ohio.
What's in Ohio?
I know Cleveland. I know Columbus, Ohio. I've been.
Why? What is
just
work
related? Work related. I've traveled there. Work related. Stayed for a few weeks, a few times.
Yeah.
So I actually know what you mean when you say, memes about Ohio. Just the plains of Ohio, and just the monotony and nothing exciting happening. Even the people there
are kind of
say
mellow.
that about themselves. Nothing ever happens here.
No, I don't want to. I don't want to.
Of course. But anyway, you've done Cleveland. Of course, you want to try something else.
Trying something.
So that was last year.
That was last year.
What's in store this year?
I think we're hitting the same spot again. It's going to be Mountain View again, with running Cleveland also online. Yeah, it's the same program. It's just going to be hopefully bigger and better this year. But last year was incredible. We had many teams on campus. We had sponsorships from local space coffee stores, from local to Google, to people that are there that are actual scientists from NASA, just being kind of supervising the event. And we're actually at one of the 3 largest research centers of NASA, called NASA Ames, that is in Mountain View. And you got to have these special security permits to enter. The shuttles are right there. I have stories with the shuttles there. They're building all of that there. There's incredible things that you're never going to see anywhere else. So it's actually stunning to be a part of this.
Do you have any inside information of what's to come in the next years?
Hopefully. We just opened up a new, because it's a regional thing. Anybody can ask for a permit, and then they kind of research you. And then if you're if you're all right by their standards, I don't know exactly how that goes, but they allow you to do these regional events. So we just opened up a NASA SpaceApp's event in Strumica in Macedonia.
Ah.
Yeah, part of our team who are from there opened it up, set it all up. And this year, and the bigger picture is, I guess, that we're going to be trying to introduce young people from Macedonia and from Eastern Europe in general, and have them over to fly to the US and get a real touch, get a real taste of what that's about. Because we have events here that are, let's say we held an event for the Artemis liftoff when it didn't happen back in August. Mm-hmm. Remember there was one failed launch. Yeah. And we had a watch party for that. So many people came, national televisions came and all of that to cover the event right here in Skopje. And mostly young people would pose the smartest questions and the most eloquent questions. And you can see it in the sparks in their eyes, and that they actually had what it takes to be introduced to space exploration and the sector and the industry and all of that. So by the time they get like about 18 or 20, they lose all of those aspirations. Regrettably, they fall into society the way it is set up here, and they lose all those ambitions. But if we can get them before that, when they're about 14, 16 or so, then they're actually smart enough and capable enough, but not brainwashed so as to actually go there and make a difference. That's what I believe.
They've had the opportunity to see it firsthand.
Yeah, which is what they never
do. Through the event, through the whole program.
Yeah.
Which is like, just go back 5 or 10 years ago, that would have been, you would never think something like that would happen in Strumica of all the places.
The same thing happens with grown-ups here in Skopje, in Macedonia in general. They still, if you tell them I'm working with NASA, they're gonna be. I've gotten theories that NASA is a conspiracy theory. That's what people think here. That because they're not very much introduced to the whole concept of what's going on. And right there, it's in Silicon Valley, it's the main industry. It's what everybody's doing. It's reality there. And right here, because you're kind of watching it from afar, you think it's a thing that people
there's your problem solving. There's your literal hands-on implementation of a version of a solution of a problem. The problem being these things not even being a possibility of an idea to actually being a reality of being a member of something. And then whatever happens after 18, 20 or whatever odd years, they know that's possible.
Yeah.
Whereas before, that's not even possible.
Yeah. Lovely. So I would urge anybody, and sorry, this isn't a pitch or anything, but I would just urge all young people to maybe you can find all these SpaceApps, Mountain View, SpaceApps Cleveland, and SpaceApps Strumica now, and you can actually join up, and you can ask them questions about how to be included in these events. And it's all very strange, but also very exciting for people from Eastern Europe, because we don't have space sectors here. We don't even know what that's all about. But if you're curious enough, you can contact these Instagram profiles or email them. Just find out more.
Cool. David, as always, lovely talking to you. I'm sure we're going to have another episode soon. This is, every few months there's going to be something new and exciting to talk about. And as I said at the beginning, I just love how the whole podcast energy flows with you. So thank you. Thank you so much for coming again. And it's been lovely.
Dude, thanks for having me. I love this whole setup that you have. It really says something about your actual genuine investment into this podcast. And not only that, but other people as well, because it's about us. It's about the guests, right? Thank you for putting the spotlight on everybody else as opposed to yourself, which is what what most people are doing. Thank you for being genuinely interested in other people's stories, and thanks for setting this whole thing up so that we could all learn more from each other. So thanks for that. Thanks for sharing everything.
Once more, huge thanks from me also, and all the best, man. Until next time.
See you soon, brother.
Cheers.
Bye.
Awesome.